As time moves forward, as technology changes and grows, as the infrastructure of companies continue to ebb and flow, one thing remains the same. A leader has to produce. This is the Mosley Method Mastering Leadership Podcast, a transformational leadership approach that's centered around three core concepts: vulnerability, transparency, and authenticity. On this show, you'll learn how to be open and honest with yourself and with others, while also developing trust, empathy, and respect within your team. You'll learn how to empower them to take ownership of their roles and responsibilities. This is the Mosley Method Mastering Leadership Podcast. And now your host, Edward E. Mosley Jr.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Mosley Method Mastering Leadership Podcast. We got a great guest today, and I think we're going to have some great conversation, especially with what's going on in our climate in America today. So without further ado, we would like to bring on Coach Yvette, and we will have her to introduce herself, tell us a little bit about herself, and I would love for you, Coach Yvette, to describe leadership to us. What does that mean to you? What does it feel like, smell like? Just talk to us.
I could do that. Hello, everyone. Edward, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. But as he stated, I'm Coach Yvette Jett. And what I do is I help women navigate the corporate world with ease, based on my experience, based on my education, and just based on the world at large. I think it's important for women to use their talents, their skills, and their abilities in a way that really serves corporate America and serves their lives. Edward asked me a question that I love because I love leadership and I'm passionate, extremely passionate about leaders and leadership. So for me, what leadership feels like, what it smells like is serving. It smells like transformation in the works always. It feels like leading from the heart, leading where you're centered on the people and you're focused on delivering the best and most amount of kindness in the daily lives of the people you lead. So if I could sum that up in a nutshell, leadership is about serving others. Leadership is about giving your all to someone else and making their priority your priority as well. So that's what leadership is to me.
Now, I would say, isn't that selfish though? Because you're giving all of yourself to somebody or many people. Isn't that draining?
It can be. It really can be. But good leaders know that when they give of themselves, their work becomes easier. Because if you take care of the people will take care of the work. And eventually, what you want to have is a love language between leader and the follower. Because after a while, it doesn't become cumbersome, it becomes a joy. And true leaders enjoy what they do, and it's not a burden.
Yeah, I like how you said that, and I did that on purpose. I said this on purpose because I know, Coach. I know as a coach as well, and in leadership positions, and some positions of leadership, and then now some not. I have seen so many variations of leaders, and I've seen the worst of leaders. The reason this podcast came about was because I had the most worst. No, that's not even correct. Most worst experience as a follower of a leader, and her character, her attitude, her reputation. It was just toxic.
Wow. Okay.
It was toxic. The environment was just unbearable. Definitely not transformational.
Okay.
But there was no communication. Just work ethic was just bad.
Right.
And there's so many people that are silently like just hurting and in emotional pain that's driving into work every day. That's hating to go to work every day. I had ulcers. I was just I could tell as I got to the parking lot, my whole body just changed.
Yeah.
I started getting headaches. I was just, you know, but it, in all of that, I try to find a happy spot or a lining in everything.
Wow.
And
Mm.
even though I went through it,
Mhm. Mhm.
it allowed me to see the type of leader I did not want to be.
Exactly. But you know what, Edward, I would challenge that. I would really challenge that because you spoke of this bad leader. Was that really a leader or was it a task manager? And they're two
Yeah.
different distinctions.
Yep.
And I think that's where people get it confused.
Mhm.
That was just someone with a title. That was just someone with a role, but that wasn't a true leader. And they had a toxic personality.
Mhm.
They had a lot of issues they had to deal with. And unfortunately, like you say, there's so many people that deal with that. But unfortunately, it's those ones in power that allow that to be. And true leaders don't allow that. True leaders will
Yeah.
stop that.
And you're spot on with that, because what actually happened is, and I do totally agree with, you have managers and you have leaders, and managers can manage projects,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what she was. When she before they promoted her to a supervisor, she was just a project manager,
Oh, wow.
and oddly enough,
Mm.
when I got there were 3 employees that had been there before me,
Okay.
and they were all gone.
Wow.
One, I did my research, and one, she actually terminated them.
Mm.
One resigned, and
Okay.
one just got another job and left.
Wow.
And
Mm.
she's had multiple complaints on her.
Wow. Yeah, that's happened.
But to your point, leadership, they were complacent.
Yeah.
They allowed her to operate and really, even to this day, she's still in that position.
Really
She does not supervise anybody,
good. Good.
but still has the title.
Wow.
But
Good.
she has created a toxic culture
Mm.
that is still to this day. And I've been gone from there probably maybe 5 years now or 6 years. And
Wow.
that culture is still toxic.
And you know what? That's where I really believe organizations need to have someone that's dedicated to leadership coaching. Because
Yeah.
what you're describing here is a woman that was promoted because she was great at her job. She was
Hmm.
probably a high performer as a project manager. She did amazing work. Everything was delivered on time. That does not make her a leader. It makes her good to
Nope.
be a project manager. I mean, and or a senior project manager or the chief project manager, but that does not mean that she knew how, of course, and that's evident that she knows how to lead people. And unfortunately, organizations don't take the time to coach people, guide people, and redirect people that truly don't know how to lead leaders
Yeah.
and lead people, right? Because you can know how to do a great job. That has no bearing on whether you're a good leader or not at
And,
all.
and the other thing that you mentioned, I think, is a great point, was even if she was a great project manager,
Hmm.
does this leader, and I don't want to stick it, just state her, but
Okay.
does the leader, does that project manager have the ability to lead people? Do they
They,
have the
yeah.
did she have the ability to help people succeed,
Mm.
to serve people?
That
If
goes
she
back,
didn't,
you know, the theory. I forget the name of the theory, but are leaders born or are they made? And I
yeah.
think it's both. I think there's some people that are born leaders no matter what. And I think there's some people that are made to be leaders. But my question would be, does she want to be a leader? Does she want to learn how to lead people? Does she have a heart to lead people? And I think that's what people are missing because, you know, emotional intelligence and the theory of emotional intelligence, and I think we've done leaders a disservice by telling everyone, keep your emotions out of it. Well,
Yeah.
what if we put our emotions into it and we lead from the heart? That might look a little bit different, right? That might reduce some of the chaos that we're seeing in the world, which might keep families together because people spend about 40 hours a week in a place, most times that they're miserable,
Mhm.
right? With people that they're miserable with. But we could teach people how to navigate their emotions, lead with their emotions, it might be a different world.
All right. So now you now, now, now you know that's a loaded answer, right?
Yes,
That
yes.
is so loaded that I can go 3 to 4 different directions with that. Okay, so we're gonna break this down into chops and
Okay,
chunks,
let's
right?
chop it up.
Okay, so the first part of that is when you talk about emotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, we don't want organizations. They
Mm-hmm.
want data. They try to make decisions based on data. And I
Mm-hmm.
was talking to, I had a gentleman on my podcast, and it became kind of a consistent theme from other guests on the podcast, because and we're talking leadership, right?
Okay.
We're talking concepts, applications, and things of that nature,
Mm-hmm.
decision making.
Mm.
And one of the things he said to me, because I asked him like, what was his understanding or take, or what was his thoughts on a lot of stuff that we're seeing now with a lot of the firing and
Mm-hmm.
probation employees being let go and things of that nature.
Mm.
And his answer to me was his time as a leader. He's made it to a senior executive position.
Mm-hmm.
The way he processes it is it's all about mission.
Mm-hmm.
If the mission
Mm.
changes, then if you realign, you restructure, the mission has changed, there may be some people that are let go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, well, how
Mm.
about being honest and communicate to the people the new direction, so they'll have some opportunity to make some pivots and some adjustments.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I struggled with this when I was in the Marine Corps,
Yeah.
because our mission was troop mission accomplishment and troop welfare.
Okay.
And so when I bring it into the civilian world, I can still say mission accomplishment, but instead of saying troop welfare, now that's kind of translated into employee welfare or workforce welfare or whatever you want to call it, or workforce.
Mm-hmm.
And I still feel as though I can be an awesome leader
Mm-hmm.
and care for my employees and still have open communication, be transparent and be vulnerable,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
still tell them the truth. Hey, next week we are starting a reorg
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we are going to have to cut some jobs and
Yes.
some billets.
Yeah.
So I think
Mm-hmm.
I think if you prepare people, I believe if the
Mm.
leader were to say, we got to make some changes.
Yeah.
There is some fraud, waste, and abuse going on, and we're going to find it. We're going to do an aggressive line by line item
Mm-hmm.
audit.
Exactly.
We're going to come into different agencies,
Yeah.
and we're going to find and make an assessment of what we think is going on
Okay.
and how we can fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, we may have to cut some workforce. We may have to shift some tasks and realign. It
Mm-hmm.
may be hard, but we got to do. We haven't did it in 100 years, 80 years.
Exactly. Somebody wasting money somewhere. Somebody
Right, right.
wasting.
Now, did we really need those chairs in the conference room that we haven't been in during COVID?
Exactly. Exactly.
So somebody's there's something. And I
Yeah.
think that's a better receiver
Mm-hmm.
than I left my job in Arizona. I packed
Mm-hmm.
up my family to move to Virginia to
Yeah.
take a government job.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, you're a probationary employee. You're less than a year, and I can let you go. So bye bye. See you later.
And that's painful.
That
And
is
I
very
think,
painful.
to your point, right, when you make decisions based on the data only, you're
Yeah.
going to miss so many things.
Yeah.
Because if you only base it on the data, what about the people? And
Mhm.
like you said, have you prepared them? To me, that leads again to bad leadership. Because if you're just making it on the data, are you thinking about what's to come? Are you thinking ahead? Are you being proactive? And a lot of organizations found themselves in this same exact thing, making decisions according to the data. Well, the data says in 2 or 3 years, we're going to expand by 50%. So let's hire a bunch of people right now for that possibility. But have we thought about it? And have we really spoken to language? I took a course, making decisions according to the data. I think that was the name of it. But it talked about leaders, honestly, Edward, need to learn how to speak two languages. They
Mhm.
need to be bilingual. They need to speak the language of data and the language of the people. And if they're really good, they could be trilingual and speak the language of technology, right?
Yeah.
Because if they knew what we know now, they would know AI is going to compensate for a lot of the people. So let's realign the people so they're prepared.
Yeah.
Also, I'm about to have layoffs. Why don't I financially prepare my people? Why don't I get some people that are good in finances that can teach people how to invest their money? And how about we make you guys investors in here if we're about to lay you off, so that in 6 months you have something to fall back on? Or
Yeah.
how about as leaders, we help you advance your skills and your terminology and your technology so that even if you leave here, you can still make it out there.
Now
And
hold up now. No, hold up. Hold up.
I'm just saying, why don't
Hold
what
up.
it
Now
makes
you
sense to
said
me.
I had a leader. We were in a we went to a we so I was part of a team where we'd go different we would do a climate survey.
Okay.
And based on the climate survey, this team would go out in each area. They would have a representative that may be HR, that may
Mm,
be IT, there may be logistics, whatever. We have a
mhm,
representative for each area, and we travel to the different areas. And one of the um, senior, so I guess he was one of the senior leaders there in the audience. He made the statement that why would he send his employees to training,
mm,
personal development, when 9 out of 10 times when they came back to the organization, or when they've completed that particular professional development, they
mhm.
they were going to lead the organization.
Okay.
Our
Mm.
senior executive, everybody kind of was like, "What the hell did he just say?" Like, and I raised my hand. I'm like, "Hey, can I answer this question?" And
Mm,
our senior executive was like, "Nope, I got this one. I got this one." Because the guy was senior to me, but he wasn't senior to our chair of
okay.
the trip. And he said, maybe the problem is you.
Mm, mhm,
If you can openly say that to an audience,
mm.
then your people want to leave you anyway.
Anyway, exactly.
So,
Exactly.
maybe your culture or
Mhm.
your environment, your department, maybe your department is one of the ones that we're really down here to talk to.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so you mentioned about, investing in your employees and investing in a professional development. That you kind of throw that the flavor of being holistic
Yeah.
and looking at just taking care of them from
Mhm.
that work-life balance.
Yeah.
And some organizations are not built like that.
No, not at all.
They're just top-down approach.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Because because they haven't developed a growth mindset.
Yeah.
I wrote a paper, and I'm an agile coach, right? And it's about being agile, it's about being flexible, and it's about having a growth mindset. A lot of times people are in a fixed mindset, so they never grow and they never have the people around them growing. If I were that leader that you just spoke of earlier, I would want people, yes, I want you to be built up. So if you want to leave and go somewhere and advance your life, advance your career, advance yourself financially, good. But we're gonna build this bench. So when you do decide to leave, we got somebody else that's as good as you or better than you, right? And it's
Yeah.
I look at it the same way I look at raising my kiddos, right? I love being a mom. And I feel like I'm the greatest mom on the planet. But what I do tell them, I'm great, right? Like y'all got the best of the best right here, but you better be better than me.
Yeah.
You better be better than me. I do great things, amazing things, but I want my kids to do far better than me. And why wouldn't we want that same mentality in organizations? Like, I'm this great, but you be better than me. Outshine me,
Yeah.
outdo.
I can if out of 100 organizations, I can probably say we're not even at 50% that has that mentality.
N- It's probably less than that, Edward.
I
To be,
know,
it's
I know.
probably
I was trying to be conservative. Yeah,
No, it's probably maybe 10% because I ain't ran across.
yeah,
I have not because you know why? Let me tell you how I know. If we're looking at data, let me tell you why I know we're not there. Because of the way society is, the
hmm
way that we stab one another in the back, the way we're not connected as a people, just as people, that's
yeah,
how you know that organizations are not like that. And let's be very clear, these same leaders we talk about live in our communities.
yeah.
So if they live amongst us and they're leading us, no, we're not there yet. And that's the sad part. That's the sad part.
It's very sad. So as an adjunct professor,
Yes.
as a business leader, as
Mhm,
a coach,
mhm,
um, how do you present this problem or this future, the potential path to your students?
That is, I think that's why I love being a professor, right? Because I had a bad boss leader. He was the worst that you could ever meet. I think he probably would trump your worst.
No, 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 no.
I mean, they may be like, I don't know, they must know each other because he was the worst, right? And I was in aviation for 20 years and I love aviation with my whole heart. And he was the reason I left aviation because I said, you got to get out of here because it was just that bad. And
Mhm.
so when I became a professor, so I said, since I'm not in aviation, go teach aviation. And part of that, I teach aviation leadership classes, aviation business classes. And I teach just regular leadership and business class at another university. And so, what I have done since I have my students in my clutches, right? I tell them what the expectation is. If you come through Professor Jett's class, I'm going to teach you how to treat people. I'm going to teach you how to lead people with love, kindness, and respect. So, if you ever go back and look at the roster and say, where did this leader come from? I'm going to teach them the right way to lead. And I impress that to them from day one. And I tell them that my expectation, because all of my students will be directors, presidents, vice presidents, supervisors, they all will be in those roles one day. And I taught them the right way to be, to lead, and act. And my expectation is that as leaders, we uphold that standard. And I tell them it's not going to be easy because it's not the norm. So I'm teaching you against what's normal, but you better hold to it.
Yeah,
And while you're at it, go as high as you can because the higher you go, the less people that can tell you you can't be who you are. So get high, and get high fast so that you're the one that's implementing what I taught you the right way,
yeah.
leading people from the heart. And then, with everything that's going on in the world, it's hard for them. One of my aviation class, emergency plan management, unfortunately, everything that's happening in aviation right now has impacted my class directly because it's what we talk about. And unfortunately, it's happening, right? But I tell them, we're learning this not for a grade, but for knowledge. And what you do is I'm ensure that all of my assignments are practical. So I'm not just going to give you the theory, but I'm going to give you the practical application behind it. And I'm very, very, very clear with my students. I'm giving you the theories, but it may not always look like this in the real world when you
Mhm.
get out here and have to apply it. And everyone is not being trained like you. So to navigate that journey is going to be difficult, but you know the right thing to do.
Yeah,
And then as a coach, what I tell people, and what I really believe is get your own so you have less people telling you what you can and cannot do.
yeah.
That's part of it. So part of what I teach women and how to navigate the corporate world with ease is really a mindset. My
Mhm.
thing is get all the information you can, understand business, develop your business acumen, develop your technical skills, and then go build your own. Don't stay there, build your own. So that's when I say navigating the corporate world with ease is getting the knowledge, the information that's already built, get the framework, and then go build your own.
Yeah, that's really good. And as you were talking, one of the things that came to me was what is their what
Mhm.
is their expectation when it so like okay, I'm not going to ask how young you are,
I can
but
tell you. Yeah.
I'm going to say how old I am, right?
Okay. Okay.
And so I'm 54, and so I remember
Okay.
that most folks kind of when I was growing up, even when I was in the military,
Mm,
and even well, not so much now, but people were expected, or they were setting their ways of and thinking that hey, I'm going to be at this organization for 10 years, 20 years, 30, I mean for the long haul.
mm,
And then we see where we have all generations within the workforce now.
yeah.
And so your students, whatever age they are, they're going to come out into the workforce. You may have some older students or whatever they age they are. What is their thought process of loyalty
Mm,
when it comes to the workforce? Is it a 3 year? Is it I'm gonna get what I can get and get out?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. So to be honest with you, I'm 47. So I came from that same era, right? Be loyal, stay here until you die, get the gold watch and, then leave. But I think now we're living in a time that is rapid pace and
Yeah,
people want what they want during their work day, right? A lot of younger people want to work remotely. A lot of people want flexibility. So what I'm seeing the climate be now is that they're going to stay until they don't like it anymore. And if
hmm
they don't like it, they move on and honestly to get paid what they're worth and what their value is. So the loyalty has changed. And
yeah,
unfortunately, I think the corporate world and organizations have to be prepared for that. And I really believe that they need to treat people better or they won't have good quality people because right now the way the market is,
yeah.
I mean, it's every person for themselves and you can truly navigate your career the way you want it to be. Gone are the days when if I'm a data analyst, I got to be a data analyst until the day I stop working.
Yeah.
No, I learn some new skills. And, my thing is if AI can spit it out, you can learn it. So I see that changing even faster in the coming days. And especially with the administration we have now,
Yeah.
I say it's going to look completely different in the next 4 years because if you can let me go, I can let you go too. So I don't know if they know what they sparked, right? This whole
Right.
situation. You could break up with me, I could break up with you too. So the loyalty is definitely shifting in a different direction. Most definitely. Most definitely.
Yeah. And so that's one of the, I'm sorry, but I wanted to write that down. That's one of the things that I know is I don't like the way the
Mm,
administration is doing it. I don't.
okay.
But when I look at it, from experience and from knowledge and wisdom and excuse me and things like that, I do realize that a lot of employees,
Mm,
when in the last 20 years or so, let's just say 20 or 30 years or so, right?
mm.
There was this thing of if I get into a federal job, then I'm safe.
Be safe. Yeah. Safe for life.
And for instance, the lady that I talked about, my supervisor, right, previous
Mhm.
supervisor, um, I think she's close to 35 or 40 years in federal service.
Are you kidding me?
No.
What?
And so if it was me, I would have started that way. Instead of the probationary folks, I would have said,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you know what? Um,
Mm-hmm.
my data analyst group that's doing all this stuff out here. Um, tell me who has over 30 years in a federal service.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because obviously, if you're 30 years in federal service, you are retirement eligible with no penalties if you got 30 years, right?
Wow.
So you can be, I think it's, and there's different criteria for different age groups or times when you came in, right?
Mhm.
So I would look at who has been in the federal service from 30 years up,
Yeah, makes
and
sense.
that would be my first cut.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
if you are there, I know I've seen this where they've been in these organizations, 33 years, 35 years, 40 years. They have not learned a new skill in the last 10 years and
Wow.
don't want to learn a new
I
skill.
wanna learn it. Wow.
And so when you say, why would I get rid of a master's degree or bachelor's degree,
Mhm.
new motivated employee,
Yeah.
when I
Mm,
got one over here that's been here 35, 40 years and is just sitting on that spot,
yeah,
just waiting to draw unemployment, or
exactly.
could be employment eligible right now.
Wow. That's true. That's a
And so
very
I think that would have been it would have been an easier sale
exactly.
because all you would have had to do was say, you know what, we are retiring you,
Mhm.
retirement eligible employee. So they're not losing money.
Exactly.
They were going to retire on that amount of money that they knew they were going to get per month anyway.
Exactly. And that just makes me think, why are we killing the next generation before they even get started?
I, I,
If
I don't I
you
don't know.
if you're just a couple months on the job,
Mhm.
you're young, even if you're not young in age, right?
Yeah.
You're young in your career, or even your new career journey. So I've stifled you from
Yeah.
the beginning. And anytime you have to move from one organization to another, you're losing in the process until you build back up.
Yeah.
Because you have to build back up to get your, your insurance. And you, like you said, you moved your family.
And you resigned from your job, your previous job.
It's like, and I can't go back now. They're not
Yeah.
taking me back unless
There,
they feel
there,
very, very sorry for me.
there are cases where there are cases where people have moved across country
Mm.
and they're waiting for a house. They're waiting to move in a house.
Ooh.
Their household goods are being moved across country.
Whoa.
And because you're a probationary employee, that's the first cut. So
Oh,
you don't even have your household goods. You don't even know where to send it.
you can't even stay anywhere.
Right, because you're temporarily in a temporary lodge somewhere waiting,
Mm.
or maybe you got the family waiting for you till your house is available,
Mm.
but you've already resigned that previous position.
And what I didn't even think about that scenario, I think it's disheartening and disrespectful to do people like that.
Yeah.
I really do. Now, do I think, of course, there's been some ways. I listened to the address that he gave a couple of nights ago. And when they said this people that they have on Social Security is like 300 years old, I'm like, okay, I get it, right? Pull the data, pull the numbers, but don't pull the people just yet.
Okay, to that point, and we know this, we're both data analysts. We understand that piece, right? If you have pulled some data and it shows that somebody is 200 years old, then you stop those benefits.
That's not that hard.
Right. It's not that hard. And then you can always backtrack and see, where it was going to, what account it was going to,
Exactly.
and who has access to that account. There's
Mhm.
ways you can do that.
Exactly.
But to say that the system is bad, I don't, again, I don't want to make this political. And so I'm not going either direction with it.
Mhm.
But as a leader, and I think we're both in agreement that they're, let's say it this way, they've never had a budget, a true clean budget
Yeah.
in multiple presidents.
Yeah, exactly. No one can get it done. Exactly.
Right. So
Exactly.
when you want to talk about now I will say, again, I don't like all the tactics
Yeah.
from any side, right?
Mhm.
But at some point in time,
Mm.
somebody was going to have to take that
Yeah, yeah.
and
Exactly.
do a true clean audit. And I think that's when I go to reorganizations, when I go to restructuring, when I go to
Mm.
and I'm gonna give you another example. I interviewed a lady on my podcast. She used to work for Dell.
Okay, yeah.
She had been with Dell for 20 years,
Wow, okay.
and they let her go. They let
Mm.
her go. But when I asked her the question about what's currently going on, what
Mm.
we're seeing with the hiring freezes and the firing and closing the agencies, it didn't affect her
Okay.
in a
Oh,
negative way. It's a norm for her. It
mm.
became a norm for her because she's in the IT field.
Yeah, so she's used to it. Mhm.
She's used to a
Yeah,
computer is outdated in 3 to 5 years.
yeah.
A whole
Mhm.
platform is changing every 5 years. And so when we went from these
Mhm.
legacy systems into these new kind of updated modern platforms, we went, that IT world is that's normal for them.
Yeah, exactly. That's just
And
what
so
happened.
there's no expectation to stay in the IT field for 20 years or 30 years unless you're moving up
Unless you move up and moving around and
and
moving
moving
around,
around. Yeah.
learning new skills. But I think even if it's not political, Edward, just the way, just implementing basic leadership skills, right? And when you're building a high performing team, or when you're building a cohesive country, right? Because
Mhm.
you're leading at the highest level. If you're building a cohesive country, but my neighbor across the street can't eat, but I can,
Right.
and my neighbor 2 houses over loses their house, but I got up all of this. What type of cohesiveness, right? Unity are we building? So, regardless of what anyone's political position is, just the cause for humanity, right? And looking out for brotherly kindness. And when you think about just the word united,
Yeah.
that means we're together. That means unity. That means one, United States, like all together as one. So, I mean, just that little principle. And I'm not saying that there's like I think all of them have some good characteristics, but I think this is truly a case study
Yeah.
of what leadership should not be. And then a business case study of some ways you can really navigate your business, right? And some of it is about pitching. If you look at it, some of it is about pitching. Like you can learn a lot, right? From in
Yeah.
multiple ways. Like, can they pitch really well? Sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. And who's your audience? Who's your target audience? There's so many ways to look at this thing and so many lessons to learn and glean just by the way they're operating as a people.
Yeah. So the first thing I want to go back to is you said cohesive,
Mm,
cohesive government.
yeah, how we know.
That is now when we
That's
talk about team dynamics, we talk
mhm,
about high performing teams,
yeah.
we talk about cohesiveness, we talk
Mm,
about transformational
okay.
servant leadership. When you put all that in the pot together, right?
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of different pieces that go in that.
Hmm.
Um, and part of it is respect. Part
Mm,
of it is I bring a different perspective than you.
mm,
Part of it is you're different from me, so I want to listen to you
hmm.
and hear your opinion, and then we
Mm,
mix that all together, and now we have this huge cohesive unit, this
yeah.
cohesive
Mm,
organization.
mm.
And I told you I was going to ask you this question.
Okay, listen, let's go. Let's go.
So when you talk about that, right? And
Mhm.
I'm going through a program as well, and this current class I'm in is leading effective teams.
Yes, I love that one. Yeah. Hmm.
I love it too. I mean, it has really opened my mind. And the problem I'm having with
Mm,
this particular class is I'm learning theory and practice
hmm.
of high performing teams
Yes.
and what that looks like. And it's talking about diverse backgrounds. It's talking
Yeah.
about diverse perspectives. It's talking about diversity in people.
Mm-hmm.
It's talking about being inclusive.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's talking about you
Mm,
know
hmm.
shared goal.
Hmm.
It's talking about employee engagement.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's talking about all of that.
Hmm.
But what we're seeing
Mm,
play out in front of us
yes.
is not an example of a team dynamics.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, there's two parts of this question. So the first part is as a professor,
Hmm.
as a leadership coach, um, do you feel as though organizations are going to follow suit
Mm,
in, I guess I would like to call it this reshaping in one direction?
mm.
Because what I'm seeing
Okay. Mm,
is organizations, and we see this in the news today.
hmm.
We see Target, we see all these Target, we see Best. I think it's Best Buy. There's a host of companies
Hmm.
um, that are rolling back
Hmm.
these type of cohesive units,
Hmm.
but it seems as though they're only looking at it from a ethnic background,
Yeah.
black,
There's so
white
many things.
background,
Yeah. Hmm.
rather than diversity in education
Yeah.
and perspective. And what do you say to that? What do you say about that?
I think this is my strong opinion that they will start to roll it back
Yeah.
and they will follow suit. Because if you know this, right? If you look at the 8-step Cotter change model,
Mhm.
when you're changing an organization, the first thing you do is create a sense of urgency.
Hmm.
A sense of urgency creates discomfort. It creates dis-ease, and sometimes it can create disorder, right?
Hmm.
So what they're feeling like, and he does this, right, is you want to be, if you're not a part of the coalition, you're not going to get any help,
Right.
period, right? So he's building that strategic vision, and a lot of organizations are not, they don't have enough autonomy to stand on their own,
Right.
because what has happened is so much funding, so many, grants and all this has been interwoven into their budget, into their strategy, that they can't stand solely on their own, right? They have
Mm.
to get imports from here, from there. So now they're the outlier. So what do you do when you have to save billions? It was a pastor. You've probably seen it on social media, where he was telling them to boycott Target. Pastor
Hmm.
Brian, Jamal Bryant, and the numbers that he put out, that how much they lost in that 1 month was in the billions,
Yeah,
right?
it feels like 15 billion.
Yes. So can you imagine what will happen if the government boycotts them? Your whole organization could crumble, right? So
Hmm.
unfortunately, I think they will roll all that DEI back, because I really wonder about this. I feel like it's a possibility that they did not have the commitment to betterment to begin with.
Hmm.
But it seemed as though that there's a possibility that they were chasing the dollar, chasing the funding, right? So they go wherever the dollar goes to keep themselves afloat. And the optics, right? You have to realize we came off of maybe about 12 years was the optics, do the Obama administration was about everyone coming together, everyone being united, right? So you have to go with those optics at the time. So to answer your question, I think unfortunately that we'll see a lot of rollbacks, a lot of cuts, and unfortunately, it's a lot of miseducation about what DEI truly is.
Yeah,
It's
I
really
think.
not just about color. It's not just about race. It's so many things that are woven into DEI that impact so many people. And I'm a veteran, and so when things affect myself and my battle buddies, that's what hurts the most, because I don't think people understand that. They
Yeah.
just think, oh, because you're a minority, now you can get a job. And really, I would like to see the data on that as well, right?
Yeah.
So that's so yeah. To answer your question, I think they're going to roll it back. I think a lot of
Okay.
organizations will follow suit. I really do.
So let me ask you this then.
Okay.
Before I tell you what I believe, I'm going to ask you: do you think that there is opportunity after this journey?
Mm. Opportunity after this journey, and in what respect? And
So with everything going on, all of we just talked about the organ, and I like how you put that, um, especially when you use the word autonomy. Those
mm,
organizations don't have the autonomy to to operate on their own based on all the everything that has been interwoven.
mm-hmm,
With all of this being rolled back and get rid of
mm-hmm.
DEI and all this stuff, is there opportunity after all of if it's 4 years or if it's two, however long this goes? You talked about it earlier. You talked about um taking away the nose. You know,
Mm-hmm,
you get in, you get what you need, and you get out and you start your own.
mm-hmm.
Are there opportunities after this? Is this kind of like, okay, you know what, Target, you want to do this? Guess what? We'll take all of our business somewhere else,
Somewhere else, yeah,
and here's an opportunity for us to come together as a people, as a
yeah.
business, as a are there opportunities that are coming from this?
I
Because you said it, we're not going to look the same,
not gonna look the same.
regardless of what happens.
Mm-hmm,
We're not. There are going to be some change.
mm-hmm.
So, are there opportunities after this?
I think there's tons of
Yeah.
opportunities. I think there's tons of opportunities in this, and I think there's tons of opportunities after this. Mind you, hear what I just said, right? I hear people all the time, don't watch him when he does this, don't watch him when he does that. Let him have the lowest numbers. Now you need to watch.
Hmm.
Because what you're also watching for is a how to run your business
Yep.
and how not to run your business, right? Edward, there are so many business opportunities in here that have never been before. So
Yep.
let me take my business for instance. Right now, this is the best time for me as a business coach to be in business as a leadership coach, to be in business as a organization. We do resumes because we're in changing times. This is the best time for minorities and women to build your own business. Let's take, for example, Tabitha Brown. She's in Target, and probably half of the Black women in America have run to Target to get her product. Well, Tabitha, now you need to build your own. Now you need to build your own store, right? And also, Edward, this is the thing. This is the difference in between a small business and a big business. Apple needs millions and millions to make billions. For me to make 100,000, I just need about 10 or 20. So there's that difference right there, right? And then on top of that, they're looking for the small business that has talent that could come in and teach somebody else. So now what you do, that former data analyst that lost their job, let me go contract with somebody. All right, I'll give you my services, right? For the low 120,000, right? And mind you contract your service, you consult your services out. So now you're not tied to the government, you're not tied to the whim of everyone else. You just contract and consulted your services. Oh, and by the way, put in your clause that not only am I exclusionary to you, but I will have other clients as well.
Yeah.
And it seems like we just have 3 clients. We have a quick 300,000 right there, and you just didn't give me my goods on the way to my house. My kids are sitting in the temporary housing. So, and then mind you, look at what he does, right? He's using the 8-step Cotter change model. That's all he's doing. And it is phenomenal how he's using it, right? But he's also using it in a negative way. So what you do as a business owner, you take that same model that he's using, which is the 8-step Cotter change model, but you apply it in a positive way. So now whatever he does for bad, you do for good. And now you're building a coalition, you're building an organization that is thriving because they want something different. Because right now there's going to be more people hurting than are doing good, right? Because of course, you're hitting the middle class to lower class people, but this is an opportunity to make a change. Build your own schools, build your own grocery stores, build your own a coaching organization, right? I just threw out some things right there. I might need to find that consultant, that data analyst. You build your own company out of people that have great talent.
I'm telling you, I 1000% agree with you. I think I told somebody that exact sentiment, I think a couple of days ago. I think it's 1000% a good opportunity. For me as a coach. And so I'm inside of an agency, and a lot of the employees they're depressed. They're uncertain.
Wow.
And one of the things that I told them, I was like, what we're not looking at is we're looking at the employees of the organization, but what we haven't talked about are the leaders and the supervisors that have to let those people go.
That's hard. That's depression.
So they are silently coming into their office, waiting for some guidance to say, okay, we got to let. And I got a good friend of mine. He works for he took this contract, became a program manager. And the new program, let's just say, almost doubled his salary, right?
Okay, wow.
Great salary, right? Not even 2 days after he got in, or let's say a week after he got in, him and the VP had to fly out to a certain area, and he had to let go some employees based on a government agency that was shut down. Let go 100 employees.
Are you serious?
And so he was in a state of like this emotional drain of, wow, I didn't if I would have known that I would have to do this, I wouldn't have probably taken that position.
Yeah.
But that's the leadership side. That's the tough side of it. Somebody has to deliver that bad news.
That's hard. That's hard, Edward. That's hard.
Now we've heard that some people was just sending emails to get rid of people.
Trifling.
You know, just sending emails, locking doors. You can't get in. You're done.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I just think there's a way to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you're able to say, hey, this is what we're going to have to do,
Mm.
and make it more positive, even though there may be a recipient, a negative receipt of it.
Yeah.
But again, I go back to that employee that has been in the federal service for 10, 20, 30 years. That's the mentality that they had.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they would have been told 10 years ago or 20 years ago that, hey, based on cuts or whatever, your retirement is not guaranteed.
That's so hard. Yeah.
Now it makes me think, okay, you know what? I need to be professionally developed, personal developing. I need to be, getting my skills up. So if something should happen,
If something should happen, exactly.
then I can move.
Yes. Oh my God. And it's funny you said, because I teach a workshop, the Scrum Mastery workshop, right? Because as a Scrum Master, you can take that one skill and honestly, Ever, you can make six figures from it, right? But it is such an interchangeable skill that you can grow and develop it in so many different ways and apply it in so many different aspects. And what I'm finding is that so many people aren't taught that to just develop your skill so that your toolkit has so many things in it. So at a moment, so you reach down by, I got this, okay, I got this, no problem, I got this, right? But a lot of people don't set themselves up like that to have continuous learning and continuous improvement. And
Yeah.
because a lot of times, and what I found is, it's because of the leaders that they've had in the past that have.
I don't know. I think I'm just this. I guess I'm a education nerd,
Mm-hmm.
overachiever.
Yep.
Because one of the things that I always wanted to, I prided myself on this philosophy for it. I know at least 20 years. It
Mm.
was, I will always take the no out of somebody else's mouth.
Yes, that
I
part.
will never give you the opportunity to say no to me. If it's an education I need, I'm going to get it.
Exactly. I'm gonna get
If
it.
it's a trade I need or a certificate I need, I'm going to get it. So
Get
when I
it.
submit for that position or I pitch you,
Exactly.
I've taken the only thing you can say that the only reason you can say no to me is you just don't like me.
You took the words out of my
You just don't
mouth.
want me.
That's the only reason you can say no to
Yeah.
me. It's funny you said that, Edward, because I started on this doctoral journey because I had a horrible leader, right?
Yeah.
And because I kept getting turned down. I'm like, I'm qualified, right?
Mhm.
So and I always apply for leadership positions. I love, love, love leadership, right? So I said, let me go be Dr. Yvette
Mhm.
Jett so that the leadership
Got that leverage.
like
Yeah.
and then you could tell me no, but
Yeah.
I know I'm overqualified for it. But you
Yeah.
only tell me no because you don't like me. But it's not because my black and white doesn't qualify. You just don't like me. Because I know there I think it's like the top 5 or 10% of people have a doctorate degree. So I know it ain't that many of us out there.
Right. Right.
So yes, I'm wholeheartedly the same way. And there's so much education out there for people.
Yeah.
So much to pick.
Okay, let me ask you this question.
Okay, I'm
All
ready.
right. With everything going on
Mm-hmm,
and outside the federal service, and you're a veteran, I'm a veteran.
mm-hmm,
And one of the things that's really irritating the hell out of me right now
mm,
is the way that this new policy is coming out,
mm,
where they have the Secretary of Defense has basically told the services
mm-hmm.
to scrub their web pages, remove all diversity type pictures, remove anything that talks about inclusion, anything. I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I go back to define that for me. Like
Mm-hmm.
what does that look like? And I'm going to write about, there's an article that was in military times,
Mm-hmm.
and they did an interview of, like, I want to say about 8 to 10 public relation officers.
Mm.
And the only way these public relation officers would agree to be interviewed is if they could be named, could remain anonymous.
Mhm. Mhm.
But they have to physically talk about and go through and scrub these sites of diversity. So my question is, there's a couple things I'm seeing here.
Mhm.
Is the, and you may not know the answer, but I'm just, what I believe I read and I see is, especially from this article, is you want military services to not go to like engineering schools
Mm.
or or electrical schools or science schools.
Mm.
If they're say like if it's a black engineering school or
Mhm.
whatever, what I'm seeing is, I'm seeing the what I think I'm reading is pictures are coming down of minorities.
Mhm.
Programs are being cut that are focused on minorities
Mhm.
and women.
Mhm.
I've seen some key positions throughout, agencies
Mhm.
that are federal or and non-federal
Mhm.
that have removed women from positions.
Mhm.
So I guess, and you may agree or may not want to comment. Um, I think I'm seeing where this concept of an all
Mm.
male
Mm.
perspective,
Mhm.
and if you take away the minority piece of that, now
Mhm.
am I seeing a web page of now in the military? We can call it military. Am I going
Mm.
to see an army page just of white males?
Mhm.
I'm going to see a army page
Mm.
or Marine Corps page of just tanks.
Mm.
I just want to see pictures of tanks and airplanes. Am I not going to see people?
Mm.
Because I don't know how to interpret that other than if you remove minorities
Mm. Mm.
and if you remove women,
Mm.
I don't know what's left.
Huh. Interesting.
I
You know
don't know
what's
what's
left.
left.
You know what's left.
I,
So you and me, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm in, like I told you, I'm 47. So I understand how when people get older, they get rid of all the fluff. So I'm gonna be very real with you. We're going back to a time that they always wanted to be at and that we were at. It was just never outright and blatantly spoken, right?
yeah,
What's happening? There's a book called The Psychological Change of Slavery. Psychologically,
yeah,
we're going backwards.
yeah,
Psychologically, we're going back to a semblance of enslavement.
yeah,
They're not trying to empower minorities and women. That's not what they want.
yeah.
They, whoever the they is, and I'll let them interpret the they, right? Is we're going back to a time where they're um outright trying to gain control, right? They're trying to regain control and regain the narrative, right?
Okay, I want to interrupt you real quick, right?
Hmm.
And let's just say, for the sake of argument, right?
Okay, okay.
Let's remove the word slavery because
Mm,
that may
mhm,
be too woke or something. That may be too something. So let's remove that word. But I think it still goes to your point. We still only want to see a one type of person
mm,
in
mhm,
marketing and in advertising and in
mhm,
organizations. And
mm,
it's not the woman, regardless if she's white or black or minority. It ain't a woman,
mhm,
you know. And so I don't, I think I'm
mhm,
at a point in my life to where something is growing. Something is moving. And again, I didn't want to cut you off, but I wanted just for the sake of argument, let's
mhm.
just take that slavery word off of there.
Okay, okay.
But to your point, you're right. We're going backwards
Mhm,
because
mm,
go backwards from everybody having kind of equal say and equal rights. Then who has all the rights?
exactly.
You know?
Someone else has all the rights. So even if we take that word off of there, right? We're still put in a box
Hmm.
that we are contained, right? The liberation that we once wanted as a country, as a
Yeah.
culture, is now being contained, right? And it's being selected for only a few.
Yeah.
So it's a selective process that is not inclusive to everyone, whether you're only a certain gender, a certain race, a certain demographic. only a certain financial status, so that everyone can sit at the family table
Yeah.
is now off the table.
Yeah.
Now we have the separation of, we have one table for you, one table for you.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, everyone won't get the same opportunities as we once were starting to experience, even at some micro level. Because it's still, I think it's still always been there. I think it's always been just like this, but it wasn't as
Genuine.
right as it is right now. It's in our face right now.
Yeah.
And it's very evident and very clear right now. So what I'm hoping is that, like I said, that we build our own or find another way to navigate around this, right? There's certain and there's several ways to get around it. You can go over, through, or under. Like, you can get around it. You don't have to subscribe to what they're giving you, because you still have the opportunity to make different decisions, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. Does that answer your question?
It does. And hey, Coach, unfortunately, we gotta run.
You
But
got
I
it.
wanted to, I just want to give you the about a minute, 30 seconds to a minute, just to, or if you think you've already gave enough nuggets.
I think I did give enough nuggets, but this is what I will say. This is the nugget I will leave, that you can manifest anything you want. And even though we're in some unprecedented and unfamiliar times, if you want something, you can be, do, or have anything you want, regardless of what's going on around you.
Tell everybody how they can get in touch with you. And
You
of course, I'll put it out when I post everything out. I'll also do it, but let them know how they can get in touch with you.
Awesome. You can always get in touch with me either through LinkedIn. I am Yvette Jett on LinkedIn, or through my website, yvettejet.com. That's VETTJETT.com. And I would love to help to support you personally or your organization. And thank you for having me, Edward, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. And as again, as all of this is kind of drawn out, I think the conversations are just getting really, really just good, because
Yeah.
it's, again, I think we're in a moment where we're leaving. We were in this authoritative type style,
Yeah.
and we kind of moved and we kind of transitioned to this transformational type style, and now we're trying to go back to this authoritative type style.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a struggle for current leaders. I think it's going to be a struggle for those current leaders that remain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do they navigate? You talk about how do they navigate this new structure, this new organization? How do you navigate that with those people that may be remaining? Their friends left.
Yeah.
So whoever's left after all the trees are shook and fields are plowed or whatever, as the other guy likes to compare this to, he likes to compare this to a field. A field of grass where it just has a lot of weeds. And instead of trying to remove the weeds in that area, his thought is to just till the whole ground, get rid of the whole organization, and start over. And that's that other guy that supposedly not in the cabinet, but he is the cabinet, and he's that guy. But again, I thank you for coming on the show. I think I really feel we had an awesome conversation.
Yeah, we did.
I think it's a good timing for this conversation. And, I hope that a listening and watching audience will grab hold to it, comment on it, and we can keep this thing going. I'd definitely like to have you back on the show.
Thank you. I would love to come back anytime.
Cool. All right. Well, I simply just like to always end the show by just saying peace.
Peace.
You've been listening to the Mosley Method Mastering Leadership Podcast. Edward E. Mosley Jr. has 30 years of leadership experience and is an ICF credentialed leadership coach. And it's his passion to inspire leaders who can foster a safe space where they can empower their followers to take ownership of their roles and responsibilities while sparking collaboration and creativity. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But until then, find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Edward E. Mosley Jr. To contact the show, send your emails to limitlessboundsteam@gmail.com. See you next time on the Mosley Method Mastering Leadership Podcast.